I think you can help us shed some light as to what's going on. Here's something that I actually might agree with. Can I maybe play one more bit of this conference call? Listen here, Joel.
Democrats are failing to do some of the things that Democratic Socialists are doing, and especially in places like swing states or swing districts, I think there's a really good case that Democratic Socialists are actually the better option to take out Republicans because of the fact that we're fighting for these things, even if the label might seem a little bit scarier at first.
I wonder if he might be right about that.
Hey, Dan, it's great to be with you. And look, the Democratic Socialists' nutty positions, really anti-American positions, are challenging the party without a doubt. And there's certainly going to be some overlap in ideas. But at the core, what the DSA is trying to do is trying to undermine the Democratic Party's ability to compete in these purple states to try to purify the party. They don't really care about winning the general elections. What they care about is about dominating the Democratic Party from within and changing the message and moving the Democratic Party into an anti-constitutional party. And I think that's the real threat we're facing right now. Maybe a couple blue districts have been won by the DSA. Certainly, it's a very small fraction. We're going to see more competition. But in the United States, if you want to win the big one, and that's the presidency, you have to win across the country. And that means you have to engage in purple districts. And they're just living a fantasy if they think that what they're proposing is going to grab the broad middle of the American people.
It's interesting that you say that because I wanted to pull this up. This is Megan Romer in 2025. She is a national co-chair, and she said back then, "We will win by making conditions so intolerable to the ruling class that they would rather give in to our demands than live with the disturbance we cause until we are able to fully seize power ourselves." I think that's what they believe in a nutshell.
Yeah, I mean, that's really dangerous talk. Look, this kind of nihilistic, tear it all down, and then somehow something becomes better later on. This goes back to even 2000. I'll put on my muscle memory there as a young Democrat and watching Ralph Nader essentially argue there's no difference between Al Gore and George Bush, and let's destroy the Democratic Party. And from a Democratic perspective, we've seen the results, which is that Al Gore lost, and it was a very difficult 8 years to be a Democrat. And so it's just fantasy, and it's nihilistic, and it's destructive. It's not building us up. And at the party level, we need to shut it down. We need to call it out. I think that Democratic leaders are too afraid right now to speak directly about the threat from the DSA, not just to the party, but to the country. And as a result, it looks as if the DSA is taking over, and that we cannot afford as Democrats.
Let me ask you one other topic, and because you used to do Jewish outreach for the Bernie Sanders campaign, there's a big dust up, I'm sure you've heard about it, between Netanyahu and Mamdani, who said he was going to arrest Netanyahu. Then he said he couldn't do that. In the meantime, Netanyahu told Hannity this about all that.
Going there, I'm going to speak the truth in front of this. There's just hate spewing elected official who's pitting one group of New Yorkers against the others. He's turning them against New York Jews. I mean, what are we, in the 1930s? What is this, So much hate, so many lies.
In covering some of these races on the Democratic primary side, where DSA has taken out some other members, the real differentiating factor has been Israel and the support of Israel and being very anti-Bibi Netanyahu in particular. Your thoughts, concerns, worries about this trend in the party?
Yeah, Dana, this is serious stuff. And as an American Jewish person, individual, as well as someone who's worked in American Jewish politics, I view this as very dangerous talk coming out of the mayor's office. He is trying to divide and conquer the Jewish community. He is attacking Jewish institutions consistently, calling them monsters, ending New York's support for the internationally recognized definition of anti-Semitism, targeting the Prime Minister of Israel consistently, even though he has literally no responsibility for international affairs. And so if you ask Jewish New Yorkers if they're safer today than a year ago, they're going to tell you resoundingly no. Hate crimes have spiked. Over 50% of hate crimes in New York are against Jews, yet Jews are only 10% of the population. And this just can't stand either. And I think what the mayor is doing is setting a tone for other, and we'll connect the dots here, other DSA candidates across the board who make anti-Israel arguments as the core of their political identity. And that is dangerous to American Jews here in the United States.
I agree with you, Joel, and thank you for coming on the show. We'd love to have you back.
Thanks, Dana.